I'm David Chan, violinist and concertmaster of the Metropolitan Opera in New York. I think my real goals as a teacher are, number one, to get the student to listen to themselves. So often when I work with students, I say, how do you think that went? And they say, well, it felt pretty good, or it felt okay. What I've discovered over the years of teaching is that one of the most important skills to develop is how to listen to oneself. It seems like it should be obvious for a musician, and yet because of the amount of technical information involved, it often becomes secondary. And number two is really to develop something to say. It's not so easy, of course. It's not that you decide, oh, I want to say this type of thing. What happens, I think, as they discover how to listen to themselves is that they find that they like this type of expression rather than this type of expression. And over time, if you're attentive to it, it develops a little bit into your musical personality. The basic philosophy boils down to the goal of having something to say, and the road to get there is being able to listen to yourself and others to discover what it is you want to say.
안녕하세요. 저는 한국국제예술학교 고등부 3학년에 재학 중인 바이올린 전공 민규빈입니다. 브람스는 제가 제일 좋아하는 작곡가이기도 하고 무게감 있고 에너지가 넘치면서도 애절한 브람스의 음악 스타일을 표현해보고 싶어서 이 곡을 선택하게 되었습니다. 브람스의 정확한 리듬과 로맨틱한 선율을 잘 표현하는 법과 스트링 크로싱을 할 때 깔끔하면서도 편안한 소리를 낼 수 있는 방법을 배워보고 싶습니다. 그리고 콘체르토를 연주할 때 저는 오케스트라와의 호흡이 제일 중요하다고 생각을 하는데 지휘자로도 활동 중이신 데이비드 첸 선생님께서 그런 부분을 잘 가르쳐 주시지 않을까 생각합니다.
Bravo, bravo, wonderful. You've done a great job with a very difficult piece. There's so many things in this that are very challenging for the violinist, and you're already doing a really wonderful job. Generally very good, but I have a few suggestions for you. And then, of course, some things about the music. But the main thing I want to talk to you about today is like a piece like this is very difficult, obviously. But I'm guessing you probably, when you're playing, you think a lot about the left hand, right? So I want to get you thinking more about what this hand does. And what I see a little bit is that everything is happening in front of you. Like, right, we hold the violin in front of us, the bow is in front of us. But what happens when I play and all the energy is in front of me is it looks a little bit like this. Like everything is here, but I want you to imagine that everything happens more three-dimensionally. It's not just that I start like this, but it's like even though only you see my hand move, all the energy comes from breathing in, and then it's like the energy from my back. Almost it's like I play like that, even though my violin doesn't move. So it looks something like this. You see, it's very different than if I... You see how everything is packed down into this space? So before we talk about anything else, I want you to try this just to be bigger with your motions and imagine like that you pull almost like from the muscles in your back, that you pull the bow this way and not just move your hand. Can you try that? It's already a big difference, right? Do you feel more free? Yes. Yeah. What's also important is, I know right now you're conscious of where you're standing, but don't feel like your feet cannot move, right? Because if I cannot move my feet, then I'm a little bit stuck, like I'm a little bit like a prisoner. Okay, so then when I actually play, if you watch my feet, you see, I don't actually move them, but there's a little bit of transfer of weight. I'm not just like this in the middle, because then my body is actually not as free. You have to be able to sometimes be on the left foot or the right foot, just a little bit. But I feel a little bit like your feet right now are completely stuck. So again, you don't have to walk, but just to feel that you have a little bit more freedom of the body. Okay, one more time. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's the right idea, right? It's not to actually move the feet, but just to feel like you're free. So now to get more specific about the bow, like this is something that I believe in a lot is that I find that a lot of violinists are working much too hard with the bow because the angle of attack is not as accurate as it could be. See, when I play these two strings, if I'm exactly in the middle of the A and E strings, it's going to make the most ringing sound. So I'm never leaving this angle where I touch both strings evenly. But what happens a lot is that because players are worried about the left hand, they play. Do you see what's happening? I'm vibrating a lot, but this hand is all over the place. So then you feel like they're working so hard, but actually getting less sound than if they just. It's going to come out more easily if you have more accuracy of the strings. Can you do it slowly by yourselves? So when you cross strings, just to be very careful that you really change the strings and not just something in between, but okay, this was perfect. And then you crossed very well, but when you went back, there was not enough G string. Go back to the same place where you started. Yeah, good. Can you hear how like the sound is more complete? So now we can actually talk about the intonation a little bit. So play your open strings. So you're very sharp compared to the open strings. So the way I suggest practicing this is tune the A with the open A. Then, when you do, check the C sharp with the open E. Yep. Very good. So you see, for us as string players, we have the incredible advantage of the open strings. The woodwind player, like if you play oboe or clarinet, you don't have open strings. So you have to always check against the tuner. But for us, as long as we tune the violin well, we can check against the open strings. So like a day of practice for me when I'm working on intonation, I'm going to check everything against the open strings. So it might sound like this. That way, I always know where I am relative to my instrument. So if I'm starting to play, I'll know it's no good because with the open string, it's too high. Right, so you always have the open string as a reference, or the It's always checking against the open strings.
제가 무대에서 많이 긴장하는 경향이 있어서 사람들 앞에서 연주를 할 때 제가 제 연주를 잘 즐기지 못하는 것 같아서 좀 힘들지만 자신이 직접 음악을 표현할 수 있다는 것만으로도 행복하다는 걸 날이 갈수록 점점 많이 느끼고 있는 것 같아요.
Your thumb is smashed against the violin like this. My daughter plays violin. Her teacher told her to imagine like she's holding a strawberry in the hand, because if you smash the hand, then what happens to the strawberry? Your hand is full of strawberry juice, right? So if you see, if this is like this, then I'm not free to move places. It has to be, you have to be able to see space through here. Let's see if I'm, okay, it's a very small space, but there's still space, right? If I'm like this, then my hand is not free to move. So you can imagine, I don't know, maybe you can try putting a sponge or something to remind, like in your hand. I mean, not when you play Brahms, but maybe just when you play scales or something to remind you not to collapse the thumb. That's going to be a very helpful thing. So try this again. Just don't worry too much about intonation right now, but just try to keep the shape of your hand. Don't let this to go down like that. You see how my hand changes shape as I move, but it never loses it completely like this. Good, good, good. Does it feel strange? Feels different, right? You have to get used to it, but this is important because when you are tight, you are coming all the way out like this to play 3 and 4. But when you relax your hand, you're able to play it more like this. Yeah, okay. One more time. Okay, so this worries me a little bit because it's stretched like this, which means, let me see. Yeah, so you have to relax this guy a little bit, right? This has to, yeah, just like be friends with the violin, but don't try to choke the violin. Just they're buddies, just like kind of resting on the violin. Yeah. Okay, let's try that one more time. Okay, good. So I know I'm going back and forth between different things. I was talking about right hand, now I'm talking about left hand. Now I'm going to talk about right hand again. But you see, they have to work together. So this passage, as you were playing it, as we go through this, it gets like louder and louder and more excited, right? So how are we going to get stronger as a violinist? You know, for the piano, it's quite easy to make more and more volume. For the violin, it's quite hard. We have a small instrument, and at a certain point, we cannot play any louder. The key is the right hand. So, as we go for these notes, you have to, you see, the sound has to come from this side. So, as you're worried about the accuracy of the left hand, in order to make the music more exciting and fuller, you have to give more and more sound with the bow. Yeah, and take your time when you come down. Make sure you get to back to third position. Exactly. Good. Okay, so we've covered a lot of things right now. Let's go back to the beginning with the piano and just remember the intonation you cannot really think about when you play through, right? You work on that as you practice and you work. Right now, I want you to work on feeling like the whole body is free, right? That the bow motion starts from the back and it's not only in front of you, that your feet are steady but not stuck, that you're able to be free with your body movement, right? And that you make lots and lots of energy and you don't worry about whether it's accurate or not, Okay, let's enjoy. Play from the beginning. Okay, wonderful, so much better. So now from here, there's some things in the music I want to talk to you about. So it's important in places like this or here that we think not only about the notes that we play, but the notes that we don't play. I feel that you're only aware of the notes that you play. You're very focused on what you play, but it has to interact with the orchestra, or in this case, the piano. You interact with that. So actually, maybe an even better illustration is this one. It's really important that you play, and then there's a rest. And right now, you're playing like it lands on the beat, but it has to be. It has to be before the beat. Do you understand what I'm saying? I would hope that my students will remember the work we did together marrying technique and expression, that the two are never separate, but that when you have a certain expression in mind, that it changes the technique you need. What I was trying to get from them is this seeking of expression. And it's not my way, it's really their way, but in order for them to discover how to do it, they have to kind of walk the whole path with me through my way in order to discover theirs. This is a particularly tricky thing here. What I suggest here is, I always think, just when you practice, right? Can you try that once? Slowly. So the funny thing about when you do these types of exercises, in a way it tests how well you know the notes, because it's not our normal pattern. The rhythm is part of the exercise, but every note has to be equally strong. So up bow has to be as strong as down bow. So it's not really about the timing, it's about organizing it so we have all the pairs of notes very clearly. Okay, now try. Yeah, you see it's much cleaner now. And why? It's because when you change the pattern, it gives you a chance to coordinate all the string crossings and all those things. Okay, so let's go again from This is the tutti before 35, right? So think about what the orchestra does during the rest. So ya da 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 ya bum ya bum. So the rests are just as important as when you play. It's not just that you stopped playing. Something else is happening. In this case, the piano.
오케스트라와 그 실내악에서 다방면으로 활동하면서 관객과 잘 소통할 수 있는 그런 연주자가 되고 싶고 음악에 대한 이론과 역사를 좀 더 깊게 공부해보고 싶습니다.
Good. So much better. So let's recap what we learned today, right? One is to use your whole body for energy. Yeah, to the audience, it doesn't look that different, right? Whether I play or whether I play, it doesn't look that different from the front, but the feeling is very different and the sound is very different, right? So that's one thing. For the intonation, work with your open strings. Also, because here at the school you have the opportunity to rehearse with piano, you have to listen to see, are you in tune with the piano? You were at the beginning, but as you played, it became more and more sharp compared to the piano. So listen and compare. Don't squash the strawberry. Working with different patterns can help you to coordinate some difficult passages, okay? But you did really, really well, and just even during the time that we worked together, I saw a lot of improvement, so congratulations and bravo.
Thank you.
안녕하세요. 부산예술고등학교에서 재학 중인 바이올린 전공하고 있는 권성민이라고 합니다. 제가 선정한 곡은 비에니아프스키 바이올린 협주곡 1번 1악장입니다. 이 곡의 테크닉이 워낙 까다로워서 어떻게 매끄럽게 잘 해석할 수 있는지에 대해 선생님께 배워보고 싶어서 선정하게 됐습니다. 어려운 테크닉 가운데에서도 어떻게 음악을 자연스럽게 해석하는지와 무대에서 최소한의 긴장을 할 수 있는 법에 대해 배워보고 싶습니다.
Okay, so first of all, wonderful. It's extremely difficult piece. I never played it. I was a little scared of it, but you did amazing things with it. I have two main things I want to talk to you about. One of them you're doing a little bit already, but you can do much, much more. And the other thing might be new for you. The thing that you're doing already, I see your teacher has written like opera in your part. And that's a really big thing for me, is being part of the Met Opera and everything. I'm very aware of it all of the time. You see, a lot of people think that Wieniawski and Paganini and a lot of the virtuoso violin music, they say it's not such good music. And I think that's not actually the right way to think of this music. I think what it is it's a violin version of bel canto opera, of Rossini, Donizetti, Bellini for the violin. The same type of vocal writing, but for an instrument. Obviously, in such a very difficult piece, you're going to be worried about the technical accuracy. But when you perform, you have to think about the dramatic reason why. Not just that these notes are here, but why is this? So the dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, you play this very well. But then the next four chords was kind of the same. Instead of, there has to be more of a, okay, I'm going to take a risk and try to play this now. Can you feel the four chords you have tonic, dominant, but also just as a dramatic reason, it's like ya, da, 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 ya, da, da, and not just down, 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 but right, you have to create some sort of story, some sort of drama that creates each chord to be more exciting than the one before. Okay, can we play the beginning? Very good, very good. So one thing I see that you're doing technically, you have long arms, right? So this is the thing. All of our bodies are different. So it's not useful to talk about lifting the wrist or pushing the wrist in because everybody's arms are different length and whatever. But what is important is that the energy goes through the bow the right direction. And what I see a little bit is sometimes the bow gets turned this way. And right, why do we want a straight bow? It's not for the way it looks, actually. The real reason is when the bow is straight, the energy stays on course, right? So if I do this, I actually lose some of the contact with my sound. Don't worry about what it looks like with the arm. I'm not interested in that. What I am interested in is that dum, da, dum, that the energy continues straight through, that it doesn't get turned to the side.
제 강점은 일단 전달력과 여러 컬러의 소리를 낼 수 있는 것이 제 강점이라고 생각합니다.
Excellent. Now, in this last passage and some other places before, what I want to talk to you about is the idea of flatter bow hair, right? So now we're taught to play with the bow a little bit on an angle, but what happens is in these strongest passages, if you use a flatter bow hair, do you hear how strong that sound is? The reason is when we turn the bow hair towards us a little bit, do you see how my wrist gets lower, right? Instead of up here, when I turn the bow, it's a little bit lower. So that means that I'm a little bit more pressed into the string. Can you just try, yeah, do you hear the difference in the sound? It's like, the way I describe it is, so in English we use the word consonants, which are letters that, as opposed to vowels, which are like ah, o, consonants are t, k, p, you know, letters that speak like that. So there's more consonants when you play, right? So like in the opera we talk about singing with more text, not just oh, but that the words are clear. I emphasize the process, that the real gain is not in whether you win first prize or third prize or fifth prize or maybe no prize at all. It's in all the months you prepared, how you changed and how you grew during the preparation process. That is the real gain. In the actual moment of the performance, a lot of things can go wrong. It can be too hot, it can be too cold, there can be a baby crying in the second row. And so there are a lot of things that can cause the performance not to be an accurate reflection of the rehearsal process. But if you had a great process, you still grew together. Everything else can be more of this or more of that as long as my essential expression that I have inside me gets to the audience. Can you play from the four sharps? But I want you to play without the piano for a moment. I want you to play with no vibrato. The reason why I want you to do this is I want you to hear the line that you make with the bow arm. Okay, can you describe what you hear and how you feel? There's no right or wrong answer. Just tell us what you hear.
프레이즈가 잘 안 이어지고 진행되는 느낌이 없는 것 같아요.
So, okay, obviously to play this, especially on the G string without vibrato, is very hard, but that's the whole idea. And we're going to do this later with the, we're going to do the same thing, but the idea is to make more phrase with your bow, right? So it'll be something like, do you see how even without vibrato, you can hear the phrase, you can hear many colors, right? The idea is when I play with vibrato, it's the same phrasing as before. It's more complete with the vibrato, but without vibrato, it's the same person, right? It's not completely different. So that's what we want to do, is that your bow is doing the same phrasing that your vibrato does. Can you try one more time? Much better, okay? So now when you vibrate, the important thing is your bow still has to do this. You cannot vibrate and then this hand forgets everything we just learned. Like, both hands have to do it together. Okay, so now I have one more thing, which I should have said at the very beginning, but I just thought of it now. Because you're tall and because you have long arms, it feels like you don't have enough space to work. I think it would be really helpful for you to get the violin up and out just a little bit more. You need a little bit more space in which to move. It's going to feel strange, but try to just don't lean in, stand tall, open your chest and the violin out a little bit more, and try the same thing. Yeah, maybe feels a little bit strange. So, work with your teacher to find like the right position, but I think this is going to make a big difference. Can you go back to the beginning now? So I think part of the reason why when you play this, your bow is crooked is because you're leaned in. If you can actually open this way instead of collapsing in, it's going to make a big difference. Let's go back to the beginning. Right, so much better. So what you have to realize also, I'm very much a musician about how it sounds, not how it looks. But how you move and what you look like can also affect how it sounds. And as far as that happens, then it does matter to me. So we talked about like opera and like a dramatic situation and everything. If you look like you're unsure or timid or you're closed in on yourself, that projects something to the audience. It also affects the way it sounds, right? So like the way you opened up now, it made the sound kind of travel and be much more impactful and direct. Because I'm focusing now not so much on safety and just taking care of my things, but actually projecting a character, projecting a mood, a story, right? That's ultimately what we have to do, even in this type of music. Maybe especially this type of music, it has to tell a story.
활을 쉽게 잘 쓰시는데 소리가 되게 단단하고 따뜻한 음색을 가지신 분 같다고 생각했습니다.
From here, can you make it more playful? I know it's very hard, but it feels a little yatta-dara, yatta-da, yatta-dara, 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 yatta-da, yatta-da, right? You can play everything, so make it more fun. Make it smile. Like not so. It's not like doing not math problems, right? Something smiling and fun. I think from here it's fine. It's the like when you change strings, each crossing has to bring a new color a little bit. If it's right, if it's all like the same color, then we don't have that sense of fun. But exactly, that was exactly right. And when you get to da ya di da ya da ba da da, it's like ha ha, right? Just like don't worry about it too much. It's more the color of the sound, right? When we practice slowly, we work on the pitch and the accuracy. But when you perform it, it has to be almost like laughter. Ha 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 ha. Exactly. So you see, when we practice slowly, we work as much as we can to make it accurate. But when you perform it, the character of it is what's important.
그냥 잘하는 연주자라고 머리에 기억되기보다 관객들의 가슴에 새겨지는 연주자가 되고 싶습니다.
Okay, it sounds very good, but I think it can have even more colors. So this is the same thing. Your vibrato is doing many colors, but your bow is not doing as many colors as your vibrato. Okay, so one time by yourself, no vibrato. Okay, so the bow distribution also comes into play here. You see, you have almost no bow left. So, and now this note is too. It has to have room to develop. One more time. All much better except for the F sharp. Da da ya da 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 da. The problem is the front of the note is too da da ya. It has to sing into it. Here's a. Okay, better. Okay, now with vibrato, with piano. Super. Fantastic. Fantastic, except for one note you didn't vibrate. The very first note. You played. Can you imagine if you talk to somebody and the first word is right? You have to sing the first note also. this is the last thing before we stop. So you can tell here, the legato is not as good as it could be. Right, the connection there. So go from beautiful, beautiful. Great. So we did a lot today, but I think the really important things were kind of your posture and a little bit just the attitude, right? To tell a story with what you're playing and not just to play the notes, which are fantastic. It's a really difficult piece and you're doing so well with it, but just think about these things, right? With the things we talked about, making colors with the bow, right? And to not just play well and play strong, but to really have a story behind it is going to help a lot. Okay, bravo.
곡에 대해서 좀 더 잘 이해하게 된 것 같고 선생님께 마스터 클래스를 받을 수 있어서 너무나도 뜻깊은 시간이었던 것 같습니다. 오늘 훌륭한 티칭 해주셔서 너무 감사드리고 나중에 기회가 된다면 한 번 더 배워보고 싶습니다. 감사합니다.
제가 생각하지도 못한 것들이랑 고민이었던 부분들을 배울 수 있어서 너무 행복했고 즐거웠습니다. 앞으로 좋은 연주자가 되도록 노력하겠습니다. 그리고 따뜻한 가르침 감사드립니다.
What's really going to draw in audiences and make them pay attention to what you are doing is the sense that you're telling a story, that there's something more personal in your playing. And I can't overstate this enough. Ultimately, we don't just want somebody who plays a lot of notes, but we want to hear somebody who has something to say, who is a complete musician. It's about art, not about technique. It's about expression, not about numbers. When you have something to say, you can touch people and communicate with audiences. I think my ultimate piece of advice for any artist or musician is to have something to say.